So good afternoon. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Business Portuguese, Analyzing Students' Preferences, with our guest, Rita Jesus Ledoux from Universidade Aberta in Portugal. We're excited to have her here today. I think it's our first webinar with someone talking about Portuguese, so that's something to be excited about. And also she's one of the grad students that's been working with Noble, and this is actually her dissertation topic. So this will be interesting to hear her results. So just to see where everyone's from, and we've got Nelson is here from Brazil, Carolina from Belgium, I'm here in Florida, Rita's in Portugal, so it's pretty international today, spread around the globe. And just for a quick commercial about Noble, if you access the site, we have resources on program development, language resources listed by language, and a lot of materials on advocacy, ways you can engage with the Noble community. You can click to sign up for our monthly newsletter on the Noble website. We have a variety of social media that you can join: the Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we have a lot of materials on YouTube. All of the webinars are archived and recorded there. We also invite people to propose webinar topics. We have a full list for this year, but we'd be happy to get submissions for next year. And we've also got, we're encouraging people to do guest blog posts. So we've got a couple there now for people to check out and come up with ideas to submit other things. Just real fast, the webinars we have coming up. We have one on French, which is also new, because almost everything for LSP seems to be about Spanish. So we're glad to see that we're expanding to other languages. Carolina will be presenting on her doctoral project about MOOCs. And our last one of this year will be on leadership in the language classroom. And then we'll take calls for more webinar proposals. And I do want to point out, even though different webinars might focus on a specific language, I think you can still get ideas to apply to the language that you work with, the language and culture you work with. So it introduced Rita, who is our guest, saw where everyone came from. So now throughout the webinar, you can type in the chat comments, questions. Rita's talking, and she can choose if she glances over and wants to answer immediately, or she might answer you later. And then when Rita concludes, we'll have a Q&A session. And I think so, just the Noble website again. And now I'm going to put Rita's PowerPoint up. Welcome, Linda. Linda. If you can hear us. So, Rita, we're excited to hear the results from your study. It's all yours, and I'm turning off the camera and my mic.
All right, I'll go ahead then. Hello, everybody. My name is Rita. I'm a Portuguese teacher. I've been teaching Portuguese for foreigners for about 7 to 8 years in Ireland, mainly. I was teaching Portuguese for foreigners and Business Portuguese too. And about 2 years ago, I decided to do a thesis on Business Portuguese. And that's why I'm here, to share with you what I found out on my research. Can we move on to the next slide, Mary, please? So yeah, Dublin, Ireland. So that's where everything started. Um, I saw that there was a growing interest for Portuguese language. Um, there were many people learning Portuguese, not only for business, but also for personal reasons. There are many Irish people that have holiday homes in Portugal. So there were many people interested, and still are. By teaching business Portuguese, I realized that there was a lack of teaching resources. I was trying to find materials through books, teaching materials through books and websites, but I couldn't find many, mainly websites. There weren't many, and I found myself just using either my imagination and trying to create new, always ideal. Then I also observed that the intercultural competence wasn't taken into account on those very few materials that I could find. Um, Resources for business Portuguese were mainly lists of vocabulary, and they wouldn't cover any cultural topics at all for business Portuguese. At the same time, I could see that people wanted to attend online courses. Most of my business Portuguese students were younger people, young professionals, university students. So they wanted to do something online. They kept asking me if there were websites for business Portuguese, or they wanted to do Skype classes with me. So I could see that there was interest on online business Portuguese there. Can you go to the next slide, Mary, please?
As presenter, you can at the bottom, you can move them too. I think
Can I?
you should.
With
Yeah, yeah. I know they
okay,
don't look like.
I thought you were the only one who could move them.
I'm controlling, but I'm not controlling you today.
Okay, cool. So moving on to my study. So when I started thinking about my thesis, I thought that it would be good to focus on business Portuguese since there was so much interest and there weren't many um, studies in Portugal, done on business Portuguese. Um, so the objectives of my study were mainly to analyze the current situation of free business Portuguese, reasons why people were learning Portuguese were the same as, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. Identify target learners' preferences and suggestions, and that was a key point. Assess the presence of intercultural approach on online courses, and eventually creating content for an online business Portuguese course. So those were my goals. Um, then a bit of theory behind the study, just so that you understand what kind of theory I used for everything I developed. So Portuguese language, I'm sure you all know this, spoken by 250 million people. It's the official language in 8 countries, so spread across Africa, Asia, Europe, and South America. And it's the 5th most used language on the internet. This is data from 2012, so I'm not sure if this has changed. Then e-learning, because of self-paced learning modules, so all of e-learning's advantages, flexibility in terms of space and time, people can learn wherever and whenever they want, and that reduces costs. And of course, all this is very attractive for companies that need business Portuguese training. Language for specific purposes. Facilitator of learning as opposed to the master of knowledge in a classroom. Intercultural approach, which is highly valued in a globalized and multicultural world. We all have contact with people from other countries, from other cultures, that speak other languages. So it is very important to understand all these differences and to know how to communicate with different cultures and different people. Also very important to professions in general and to international business, since the success of international business depends on the success of relationships between business partners. And lastly, online business Portuguese courses. So I focused on task-based learning, so learning tasks that students could also apply in their professions, in their jobs, like writing emails, doing summaries, reports, all those things. And then usability of websites, the fact that websites have to be easy to use, have to be appealing, and all those things. So first of all, I conducted a website analysis. I analyzed those 14 websites that you can see there on the right. They are all free and they are all Portuguese learning websites. And the conclusions I found were that institutional websites provide free access and a higher quantity of content and material as opposed to private websites, which is logical since they want to make money with it, the private. To navigate. Some of them, they are quite basic, and some others are not appealing at all from the visual point of view. We can see a clear interest in intercultural competence, but that's not very developed. So in many of those websites, we have tasks or exercises or input that talks about intercultural competence, but very superficially. Then there is very little use of authentic teaching materials. And I can tell you that, for example, for the authentic teaching materials, only 2 of the websites use authentic materials. Number 4, Falando de Negócios, and number 13, Street Smart Brazil. They are the only ones. So they use, let's say, authentic situations to teach business Portuguese. For example, informal conversations that were recorded or interviews. So things that weren't created specifically for a teaching purpose. Then there is very little interaction between teachers, students, and the students themselves and native speakers. In many of these websites, you just access and you just check the information, and that's the only thing you can do. They just have lists or even classes, but you just absorb what's there. You don't have any kind of interaction. For other websites, and I do Live Mocha, number 11, and Buzu, number 3. They encourage a lot of interaction between students and teachers. So you can talk to a teacher whenever you want. between students. They even have forums where you can talk to your classmates. And with native speakers, you can talk to native speakers of the language you're learning whenever you want. It works the same way as forums. So only those two. And then the majority of courses do not specialize in business Portuguese. So when I did my research on Google, so when I searched on Google for business Portuguese courses, all those websites appeared, and only one of them specializes in business Portuguese. It's Falando de Negócios, number 4. So that shows you it works. Then you can see here on this pie chart online business courses. So they don't mention any business Portuguese topics, anything. And then 42.9% they do talk about business Portuguese, but in only 14.3% you can have free access. 28.6% you have to pay to access. And of course, in these 14.3%, business Portuguese, it's only a small section of the website. It's not specialized in it. Then afterwards, I applied a survey on business Portuguese courses. So it was applied to 32 business Portuguese students. Only 29 questionnaires were valid. Initially, I wanted to focus only on students from Portuguese, but I didn't get enough answers, so I decided to spread the options and to widen the survey. So then we got the participation from students from universities and language schools, both state and private. And the students were from Europe, North and South America, and China. And I can see that Mary is writing that years ago. Years ago, there was a website and there were textbooks. Yeah. I think you're talking about Professor Orlando Kelm, right? Yeah. So he's from it was him who developed the website Falando de Negócios, I think was. Yeah. Okay, so were covered topics related to business Portuguese. There was a variety of activities and resources, mainly grammar exercises, tests, and homework. There was very little time dedicated to develop speaking skills and limited debate on cultural topics related to the business Portuguese world. So these conclusions were after I applied this survey to these participants. So it was through their answers that I could see this. So most of them are young adults. I think most of them between 20 years old. Could say that this matches the amount of university students we have participating. And then for the motivation for studying business Portuguese, we got some interesting results. So work trips to Portuguese-speaking countries were one of the reasons, with 13.8%. Contact with Portuguese-speaking clients with 31%. Moving to a Portuguese-speaking country, 13.8%. And 44.8% answered other. So the other option that I had, which I thought wouldn't be picked by many people, but it was picked by the majority. So then among their answers, and I'm just checking here, four people said that it was part of their university degree. One person said that he or she was studying Portuguese to perfect his or her level of Portuguese. Another one said that was doing a company project. One person was a manager in a company in Portugal. And one more person decided to not to answer, decided to not to specify why. So I think this shows us that first, the majority of people, or a big percentage, like 44.1%, 4.8%, are young students, I guess, young students or young professionals. And they do think that learning Portuguese gives them more options of a future career. Then about the cultural topics, the participants on the survey, they said that 58.6% of the courses, they don't cover any cultural topics. Interesting part of it is that the cultural topics approached or covered in those business Portuguese courses don't have a lot to do with business. They are more like generic cultural topics. For example, food habits, history, daily routine, art, music, books, sports. Only two people mentioned that in their courses they talked about social habits in a company. So that shows us that business Portuguese courses, they are not covering almost at all cultural topics related to business, which should be also their focus. Then I asked the participants what items they would like to include on a business Portuguese course if they could design one. And 58.6% of the answers. Then interaction, we can see their interaction with teacher, interaction with native speakers, generic topics for debate. So that got a lot of attention from them too. And also, if you see their interview, a business professional, I thought that that was good too, that they thought it was important to do it, because I think business Portuguese students, they know that they learn better if they can practice and if they can learn from people who are already working, who know already the context, who know how to behave in international business or business with Portuguese speaking countries. So I think that shows us very well that all those things that they are lacking currently. So some conclusions on the survey. Courses provide a large amount and variety of written learning resources, but they use very little audiovisual input. According to the participants' answers, many exercises were only written. They didn't have any video, image, sound. There wasn't a lot of a variety in terms of types of input. I also found out that students would be very interested in attending an online course, but do not know any website of such kind. Now, when I asked these questions, the students, let's say that 75.9% of the students, they said they would be interested in doing an online business Portuguese course, and 24.1% said no. But then when I asked if they knew any websites, all of them, they said that they didn't know any website. So this is very intriguing, that they are interested in doing an online business Portuguese course and they don't know any. Obviously, there are not all students suggest a more variety of input, more interaction with native speakers on cultural topics to the business world in Portuguese-speaking countries. So with all this, and I'm getting to the end of my presentation. With all this, I decided to create some kind of content for an online business Portuguese course. So my targets are level B2 students in the European Common Framework for Languages. So this would be the intermediate level. And I used as guidelines basically what the participants said that it would be important to have. So information about the business world in Portuguese, authentic situations and materials, interaction with native speakers, so focus on speaking, synchronous and asynchronous interaction between students, collaborative learning, intercultural, of course, grammar, and direct connection between course activities and students' professional tasks. So again, they can practice something in class that they can apply directly in their jobs or future careers. So then I brought you an example of an activity that I created. So first of all, we have that picture that woman, and we have a clash there. We have some embarrassment because the type of greetings they don't match from the two sides. So I asked, one of the activities was for the, thanks Carolina, for the students to describe the picture. So say what was wrong with the picture, with the cartoon, what went wrong, to describe it first, and then that activity in particular, so o que sugere para evitar situações como a representada na imagem. So they would have to find a solution for this problem, and they could meet on Skype. So the students of the class meet for international business, and then they would write some kind of report saying what they had talked about. So they would use, for example, Google Docs. I picked Google Docs just because I know it. And they could participate like that asynchronously, even one at each time. And then they would have a text with all their recommendations. And at the same time, it's point number 3. Since there would be probably people from different cultures in this themselves, they would be training how to do this because they would be from different cultures. They would have to adapt to each other's behaviors and reactions. So yeah, that was mainly it. That was one of the activities I prepared. So to sum up, some conclusions. With my research, I found out that there are very few free business Portuguese resources online. Interest for online business Portuguese courses. There is obviously a need to develop online business Portuguese courses with authentic input, focus on interaction, and encouraging intercultural competence. And that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be and to say, because Carolina was saying that the picture was nice. It was my brother who drew the cartoon. So thanks, brother.
Interesting read. You want the microphone if you have a question? I know Nelson can't. Agree. I mean, for flexibility, there need to be more online courses for all of the LSP languages, I think. You know, business, Spanish, Portuguese, medical Spanish, and especially for professionals because they need that flexibility.
And you know, I was well, it's not business Portuguese, but I was you know, in China, and they were saying that there is nothing, there are no studies on it, there is nothing. They have nothing in Portuguese. So they have to create everything from scratch. It's a lot of work for professors and for teachers if they don't have any support, any backup.
Yeah, here at our university, the students at the law school have just formed their own group. The question about if you've written, I think you're in the process of writing this up.
Yeah, well, I can see the, hang on, maybe, okay, is your work already published? No, Nelson, my work is not yet published. I still have to do my defense. So it's scheduled for the beginning of March. So after that, if everything goes okay, I hope it will, it will be published on the website of Universidade Aberta in Portugal. So yeah, I agree. I agree with it. Cultural differences, intercultural competence. I think it's key for business courses. Oh, thank you. It's very good to hear that my work is can be useful.
Well, and there's going to be this big Portuguese for Specific Purposes conference coming up actually in Sao Paulo. Nelson, you probably heard. I couldn't go. It's going to be in a few weeks. PUC Sao Paulo, I think, is where the location is. Yeah, I got the notice about it. So yeah, Nelson, I'll try to remember to send you the link. Yeah, there's a group of faculty there working on the area that, it's really needed. And especially with Portuguese booming. And I think with what Rita's covered also, it's the fact that it's for all, across Portuguese speaking countries as well, I mean, for Portugal, Brazil, and the others.
Yeah. I just want to answer Carolina's question. She's asking me why I targeted level B2, which is intermediate, is quite a high. Well, what I noticed in Ireland is that most of business Portuguese students, they were students that had already studied general Portuguese. So we wouldn't start business Portuguese for beginners. And what happened in Ireland, and it's the reality I know the best, is that not many people got to the advanced levels. So let's say intermediate, advanced, B2, C1. But the people who kept going to those levels, they would stay for many, many years. So just to give you an idea, when I started teaching in Ireland, I taught in private schools. When I started teaching there, it was in 2006. When I stopped teaching in 2013, I still had the same intermediate and advanced beginners level and lower intermediate. I had many people, they would drop out, they would never show up, then other people would come. But for the advanced levels, people would stay. I don't know if you see the same for Spanish. Yeah, so yeah, people for business Portuguese courses, they would already have knowledge on Portuguese. Yeah, they had already studied before. You are asking me about the participants on the survey? Yeah, they came from, yeah, many different places. At some stage, because I wasn't getting participation, I sent many emails. I contacted lots of universities in the US, in Brazil. Yeah, they come from many places. And China, I got a big participation from universities in China because Portuguese is booming over there. Portuguese language. For them it's very interesting to study Portuguese because it helps them to get a job afterwards, especially in the business world. Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. I went to attend his defense. It was a month ago here in Lisbon, and he focused on online Portuguese courses for China. And it's amazing the obstacles, the difficulties you find when you try to implement that kind of. Maybe he'll be able to do a webinar, or maybe he knows more people even for other languages. Um, I don't know. Teach at Universidade Aberta. Our thesis when teaching Portuguese, the non-native language, um, we can develop our thesis, our projects on whatever we want. So bye, Carolina. Thank you. Bye, Nelson. Thank you.